Hey guys, live again. Um, Thank you for coming here and seeing these videos. I really appreciate it. I just I just wanted to share a bit about what it took to do this and to be uh, me here today. Um, so I started working at 16. Um, I have 20 some years of work. Uh, Over half of that I got promoted from within. Um, One of the times I was staying with a friend and I got this job with like a standard, fast food place. I was younger. And, it was a time, ahead of time. But I was going through the interview and it was hilarious. It was, it was one of those moments and he was like, well, man, barring that you have any major crime on your on your history, I'd like to skip straight ahead to offering you a position in management. And I told him, I was like, I thank you and I appreciate it, um, but for right now I need something, right? So whatever that is. But I started working there, and the last month I had applied for another job, and I had to go through like several applications, a couple interviews, and it just sort of fell away. So a couple of days of this new job, I go back to my buddy's house, and I check my voicemail. I missed a voicemail, and it was this other company. So I ended up working for them and going from graveyard, the lowest possible position in the store, to about a year and a half later being the assistant manager at the top location in the state, in the area. So, um, so it's all good news. Um, from there, I took my school, and and part of that was the business course, right? So I got a 4.0 there, and just every single day, it felt like a reinforcement of who I was, and it felt good, it felt right, it felt on, and just everything was really working for me. So after this was done, I said this in one of the other videos, but I took some time out, and I think I was relaxing for the evening. And something that I do is I'll do a what I call a year in review. All right. So I think about all the people that I've seen, the things that I've done, the jobs that I've worked, specific highlights, decisions I've made, and I kind of gather that all, and I relook at it and I say, what did I do right? Uh, what did I not do right? What could I improve? Whose attitude, for me or against me, how did those things affect me? To honestly look at myself and say, who am I? Where am I? So at the end of this, I decided, everybody wants to make money, and have fun. So that's two options. All right. And then, you know, can I, can I work a little bit harder and dig a little bit deeper, and can I do something for somebody else? So that's sort of how, sort of how this started. So, my dad, he was a really interesting guy. Loved people. He loved art, and he just, like when it was dad, you just knew, Um, so good times, Um, but he knew this guy that he'd met through some other thing or whatever, and I was just about to go into being homeless, right? I actually needed a little bit of help, and he said he was willing. And this guy, he's a bit older, than I was, and he he had a double master's degree, right? And he was a Messianic Jew, all right? So that's basically that's Jews for Jesus, all right? So that's somebody that follows all the Old Testament. There's actually like one gathering or like basically like a group celebration like every month. So it's actually a very wonderful and rich culture and history. Um, but they also believe that it is possible that that Jesus was God's son. So he and I were sitting down talking one day, and this religion and his education were very much a part of who he was, and this devil's master, and all of this. And he said, he talked to me about something called the gold standard, and he said it's an old, sort of like an old wives' tale that that gold and silver were dropped in your water well at the house, and it would purify water. Okay, so he said, to the effectiveness of this, the pure metal to cleanse the water, and that's sort of where the basis, and monetary difference was. Anyway, decent time, good guy opened up his home to me, really cool. So he drops me off in this city, right? In the city where I lived and worked with homeless. I had a few bags on me, and I had actually gone to school in this town, right? So it was familiar enough. Um, it's a really small town, but they basically have like one of everything, and people are decent and polite and all of that. So um, so anyway, so I set out, and I got a couple bags, and I don't know, right? I've never been homeless. I don't know what homelessness does. I had spent, because of different family members and this and that. I've been in churches. I've been, in different types of education. All kinds of different things. I really, I pride myself on the search for truth and education and all of these things. Things that are good and solid that can add, to me. Um, So anyway, so I go out, and I don't know what to do. I don't know where there's food. I don't know where or if there's a shelter. I don't know if there's clothing available. I don't know if there's an education program. Um, I don't know what I'm gonna do, to get out. And the goal of this charity was to work within the system, so government, private agencies, and myself, right? So what do people offer? All right. So these people offer, this and that, and we can use this benefit or this process and find these things, and somehow, hopefully, we'll find a way to us again. So anyway, um, I spent 3 weeks, and I said in the other video, I said, the most important thing to me was in order: water, restroom, food, and sleep, and then clothing and job. So, that is, that is what it is. So, but those things were the first and most important thing to me, right? Because if I'm dehydrated, I'm not going to make it. If I can't use the restroom, I'm not going to make it. If I can't get food, and then shelter. Um, so I spent a while on my own, right? I spent about, let's see, 3 weeks going around, and um, figuring out who did what, who offered what, and what type of things were available. Um, so the first night, I'm tired, right? I'm alone. I don't know where to go, right? So I find some little nook that I can go hide in or whatever. Be be safe, out of the way, restful, etc. Um, and then I spent, the you know, first while, honestly, just, going to the food place. I found out pretty quick that Salvation Army did breakfast. So, went to breakfast every morning. Just sort of, you know, saw like, hey, these are homeless people. Didn't, said hello and was polite, but didn't really dive into any situation because you're very much alone and you don't really want to like open up to anybody. Um, you don't want to cause yourself any problems. And you don't know, like these people are homeless, so obviously either maybe someone wasn't taking advantage of, or maybe there wasn't a certain availability for, for a need or whatever. So I spent the first year doing this stuff. So 3 weeks to figure it out, and a year of living the life. Um, some people have been in there for 10, 20 years. I met quite a few people, and I've got, a few stories that I'll remember forever. Um, but after this year, I was just like, man, I'm ready. I'm ready to get out. I'm ready to head back to normal life. I'm ready to get something that seriously and honestly is missing from all of that, and that is a sense of self satisfaction. You know, sense of belonging, a sense of quality, um, and home, right? So fine. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna work. All right. So I went up to the day labor place and I filled out their application. All right. And so this was step one for me. And up until this point, I went from, and you'll see in the earlier video, the bike trailer, and we talked about that. But, I went from sleeping behind, in this case, I was sleeping behind a building, and, um, like I said, I went and filled out the application, a big questionnaire, like little check boxes. And you say, oh, I have this much experience in this and this much in there. And you'll try to be specific, don't lie, because they're going to match you, based on your experience. Um, and I was all ready to go. And like the first day, like I didn't feel like it. I was tired. I couldn't do it. So it was like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days later. And I finally got up at the right time. I got in line. It was cold and the sun wasn't up. And I wasn't really excited. And, it's just nobody's walking. Mom's not there. Um, dad isn't there to tell you some stories about his work day or whatever. You're just there. So I did that for a while. And, um, the first year and a half, basically, that was me, right? So the second year and a half, right, I ended up staying in a shelter full time. So um, the charitable service that I went to, one of them most often, I worked with a little bit, and um, they were doing like a camp, right? So I got a free tent, and I had by that time I was like super scout, and every little thing that I feel like I needed, and including the social faux pas of like dumpster diving and finding a key, a few little things that I thought were cool and fun to have. So anyway, so I stayed in my tent, and there was a group, and it wasn't any great distance from the city, and it was all pretty safe, and there was like a watcher there, and it was all pretty great. Um, and there was rumors of opening up a new shelter, right? So the director comes up to me one night, and the director said, "Hey, somebody has offered to open up their home, right?" And they're like, "Well, I don't want somebody who's like real this or real that, or I don't really want like a druggie, and these types of things." And I've never been too much of any kind of a problem. So I said, he said that, and he was like, do you think that's interesting? I said, sure, that's fine. So, um, and he also, was speaking to me about, the opening of the shelter, and he said, if you have interest, we would be interested in you, co-running, um, like basically like operational, so like management or whatever, co-running the shelter. And they ended up, working with the people that worked there and helping them sort of step up through like, a place of their own. They tried to get like one of the tiny house things going. They even had some motorhomes that like got donated, and just different feasible options for your current income level that can get you, ahead. One of them that I thought worked really well was they did like a roommates thing in like a motorhome park. So you had to have a job, X number of income. You sign a lease agreement just like an apartment, um, and they kind of matched you or whatever. So um, some people I had met or knew did that. So, but it's crazy. It was tough, like you basically give up everything, and you're on like, if life is the pyramid, and the rich man in the spotlight, if he's the top, you're certainly the bottom. you know the weight of the world is just all around, and very often it does not feel like there's any way out. And that's I'm glad and I'm not glad that happened. I'm not glad because it was difficult, but I am glad because that's a really that's the sense that I wanted to get. I needed the daily. I needed to understand what every single person was going through day in and day out. All the problems that they had. So, fine. And like I said, before I did every kind of, sleeping out, um, including, and we'll hopefully, get some content on this, but including staying in my car. So I ended up skipping the running of the shelter, stayed with the private homeowner for a little while, and I'd been out, or I'd been homeless for like a year or so, right? And I swear that I slept like the first month, like a whole entire month. So that's my stick, right? So I feel like if you've been out, for every year that you've been homeless, you just need to sleep you know, like at least a month. Um, they were very kind and very nice, and it lasted for a few months, and I sort of integrated later into the shelter system. So, and I do want to be clear that yes, 100 days of $40 is $4,000, and yes, being stable at a shelter that is not that's not a bad situation, that is a decent situation for you, that can get you there. But it was the combination of the full-time shelter plus the full-time job that got me to getting a used vehicle and sort of made that available for me. Um, so anyway, so that was sort of the stick, and in between there, I did get, I got the inexpensive storage unit, and I was swapping my bag in and out, the day bag and night bag. Um, and we'll talk about different gear and all kinds of stuff. So like the thick contractor bag for inside bags, uh, the super fancy like freezer double lock Ziploc bag, gallons. Let's see. Um, I don't know if you guys are fans of Keen, Keen, the shoe. Um, but this place, they have like a for sure like rainy season, right? And I got a pair, an older pair from a thrift store, right? So somebody's old shoes. And I wore them for an entire year. I swear to you, with no socks, and because they're like whatever like Keen does to make their shoes, they're my favorite brand. All right. After this, but I put time in, but my feet didn't stink. It was like it was like this perfect it was this perfect wonderful thing. So really excited about that. Anyway, definitely a plug for them for quality. And during that time, I found a place that helps you. It was through one of the local colleges. They have like a bike program, so you get to walk in there and say, oh, cool, you have these bike parts, and you can put a bike together, and they have tools, and they have a person, and it's sort of, it's usually voluntary, so like the hours are, it's not like so much of a regular thing, but you're a little more time heavy, as a homeless person. So anyway, but I was able to save and you know, got a vehicle. Uh, they ran fine, and was working a job, and then eventually wanted to kind of transfer myself to another city and get started with life again after making some income. So that's the short version. I'll of course take any questions or whatever and really get into it. But I'm happy. Like I said, um, it was very difficult, and it's not something that I recommend. That anybody do. Honestly, um, if you have to sleep on a couch and share rent with a friend, like do that. There's so many problems you can't even imagine the differences. It's like it's on the list of like things we wish that our parents had told us. Um, I wish that we would say this stuff in society and in government and in the regular population. Um, so that's all a good time. But we people need to know that like, hey, it takes X amount of dollars. I have to do X amount of work to get this, and I have to do a few things, in between time. Uh, yeah, to keep it going. So, but other than that, a couple of the people were great, and even a few changed my life. So, um, don't if you are homeless or know somebody who is or is touched by that in any way, don't give up. We can't all invite like a homeless person to like live in our backyard, garage, or side bedroom or whatever. Um, but I swear to you that there is a worthy person out there, worthy of your time, worthy of who the rest of us are, and that's enjoying life together. I think is a greatest pursuit. Um, anyway, so that's not any like real thick detail, but that's a good overview of sort of my walk there. Anyway, it did take some work, but I'm so excited to be able to bring this opportunity, and we'll see. We'll see how far we can get, but hopefully we can drastically affect the numbers of homeless, and just give them a chance to live. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and thanks again so much for tuning in. I really appreciate the time. All right, thanks. Bye.